clarity, creativity. This is Mary Kay Hunt, founder of Coach MK Companies. This is the first time I've done a live Facebook feed, so I hope it's working. I really don't know, and I wanted to tell you that I've been studying stress and worry principles for over 20 years. And I've been having a little anxiety about what's happening in our globe. And I thought, if I'm having anxiety and a little bit of stress and a little bit of worry, I bet other people are too. In fact, last week, I got an email from a colleague, and he had gone into a CVS in Pennsylvania. And he saw this guy, and he had this huge cart filled with water, filled with wipes, filled with toilet paper, filled with all these supplies that he felt like he just had too many, right? So he goes up to him and he pretty much just blasted him out. And the guy just stood there and took it. And, when he was done, the guy with the cart said, "Are you finished?" And the guy responded and said, "Yes." He said, "Good, because I need to get back to work and I need to get back to restocking the shelves." Now this guy I'm talking about, my colleague, he's one of the most educated, he's one of the most passionate, dedicated healthcare consultants that I know. And this is completely out of character for him. So one of the things that I want us to understand today when we look at stepping stones to sanity is we have got to find ways to remain calm. Now, those of you who know me best, you know I'm kind of hyper. And that's one of the things that I love about what I get to do for a living and speaking and training and coaching is that I get really fired up when I get to work with my clients. But one of the things that we have to do during this season of uncertainty is we need to settle and we need to find ways to be calm. So it was probably 8 years ago that I gave up watching the news. I felt like it was too stressful. I felt like that it was too negative. And I also canceled my subscription to my local newspaper. Now I share that because yesterday I was on LinkedIn and I commented on a post by Nigel Austin, who was my instructor for Dale Carnegie. And I told him, I said, well, I don't read the news and I don't watch the news. And he said, but you need to be informed and we need to get the facts. So at the end of this feed, I'm going to share with you a link to a New York Times article that really talks about the virus, the history, action steps, and things we need to take into consideration. Now, I'll admit, on Saturday the 14th, I was actually at home recovering from a surgical procedure. I had a melanoma taken off my leg, and I couldn't really walk on it for 3 or 4 days. So on that Saturday, I called my aunt. Her name's Aunt Sandy. She lived in Atlanta, Georgia. And the reason I called her is because I was looking for the XFL game. See, my cousin, G.A. Mangus, he's the quarterback coach, and we have all the games. I had them all on my calendar, and I was like, where? I can't find the game. So when I called my aunt, she goes, "Mary Kay, all the games have been canceled." So that's one of the bad things about not reading the paper and watching the news. I didn't know that. I knew that all my kids' high school games had been canceled, and I knew that school was going to shut down, but I couldn't watch the game. And so that was kind of my first aha moment that things that are normal for us are not going to be normal for a while. And, when we look at remaining calm, I want to talk to you about a book. It's called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And when I read that book 20 years ago, it actually cured me of colitis. Because I have a history, if you will, a pattern of being a worrier. And I think a lot of us are. So I've spent the last 20 years teaching myself how not to worry. And I want to share with you a couple of Dale Carnegie principles. So number one, he says to ask yourself, what's the worst that can possibly happen? Now, I'm 54 years old. If this epidemic had happened when I was 24, I don't know what I would be doing. I had a young baby. I was paycheck to paycheck. I was making about $12 an hour. And so part of what's giving me peace is I'm trying to think about all the other people that are in a much different state of affairs. Now, I did watch the news this morning. I admit it. I watched Maria on Fox News. And I watched her for about 17 minutes. And once it started looping back on the same topics, the same ideas, I could feel myself getting a little tense, so I walked away. Now, the reason I bring that up is because we all have to be informed, but I want us to make sure that we're getting the right information. So credible resources, avoid the tendency to have conversations with your friends that tend to inflate everything and go really over the top. In fact, I've relied on one of my business partners to give me information when possible. My cousin, Mary Beth Mangus, I call her whenever I have a question about pretty much anything. And then also my sister, who's a hospice nurse. Now, I share that because some of the other principles from Dale Carnegie is ask yourself, what's the problem? What are all the possible solutions? What's the best solution? And then you need to act on it. And whether you are trying to set up a new home office, use technology. I admit I was a little bit nervous about using this technology today because I've never done it before. But I can't see who's popping up, but I think it's working, so that's good. But I was inspired last week because I saw people doing things for the first time because they realized that this is a climate where we've got to embrace change. We've got to take some risks to do some things differently. I just don't want us to take risks that are going to impact our safety or the safety of our loved ones or our friends or even people we don't know. In fact, right before this feed started, I read an email. I'm in this National Society of Certified Healthcare Business Consultants. So the listserv has been blowing up today about all the different telehealth centers that are being set up, just about all the different possibilities of small business loans, the possibilities of deferred health insurance payments, just a lot of ideas that are kind of getting bounced back and forth among the consulting groups, and they're trying to figure out how to help their dental and physician practices the best they can. And I bring that to your attention because we can't think about things the same yesterday that we do today. We've got to be open to doing things different. I've never stayed at home so much in my entire life, and I'm trying to be good stewards of resources. Now, I've been on mission trips in third world countries where people are living in a one-room, area. So when I saw the joke about where we're going to go for spring break, and it's basically the map of a house, we need to count our blessings because we have so much more than 75-80% of the population. The other thing that I want to talk about, that second stepping stone to sanity, is clarity. You've probably heard that statement that our life is what our thoughts make it. Our mindset has an enormous impact on our health, on our lifestyle, on our choices. And every morning I try to wake up and the first thing I try to think about is something positive, whether it's an affirmation or whether it's a gratitude or whatever it is. Just before my feet hit the floor, I want to start off with the right setting, the right foundation. And when I think about clarity, we have to understand that our mind is wired to have some dark thoughts. Now, I used to buy into the philosophy, just think positive, everything's going to be fine. But several years ago, I read a book called The Joy of Living, and I'm probably going to butcher his last name, but it's Rinpoche. He's a monk, and one of the things that he talks about is you've got to envision that your mind is like a flowing brook. And sometimes you'll have these little pebbles flow through and they'll be your thoughts. Well, oftentimes some of those pebbles can get lodged and it can be like a larger rock. That's the real dark negative thought. And he says the key is to continue to let those thoughts roll on. So when you have a moment where you're fearful or a moment when you're scared or you're worried or you're angry, embrace it, feel it, and push through it if you can. I realize having a 16-year-old at home that, we're having some battles about the right activities, getting the homework done. Some of our teachers haven't even set up the curriculum yet. My oldest daughter is a school teacher. They're technically on spring break, but they had all their teachers sign into a 2-day virtual professional development series. So just realize everybody's whole world has been turned upside down. So we need to be patient. We need to give people grace. We need to give ourselves grace too. But we also need to figure out a way to be creative. And I was inspired this morning. I called one of my really good friends, Cindy Issa, who owns a restaurant in Greensboro. And, it just warmed my heart to hear this. I already knew that Cindy had set up curbside pickup. In fact, we ordered dinner from there last Thursday night. But one of the things that she shared is that she was in line yesterday on Sunday at Biscuitville, and she was getting tons of muffins and tons of biscuits to deliver to her neighbors, you know, on the doorstep, I'm sure. And the car in front of her paid for her ticket, and it was like $60 worth of muffins and biscuits. So Cindy offered to pay for the 5 cars behind her. So just realize that there are people that are going to be in tremendous need. And we also have to honor, when we think about clarity and we think about our safety, you know, we need to honor all of the best practices that they're saying to do. Now, I have a little bit of healthcare knowledge. I did work in a dental office and I did sleep at a Holiday Inn, so I think I know a little bit about healthcare. But the key is that it's got to be safe. I'm supposed to have stitches out on Thursday, and I'm thinking about taking them out myself. So I'll call and get a tele-guidance here. But I don't even know if I want to go into a healthcare office right now. So I share that because that's part of me being creative, is I'm going to have to do things I've never done before. I had my first Zoom conference call with a coaching meeting last Friday. In fact, I've had 2 classes canceled that I was supposed to teach, and so I'm prepared, you know, to take a pretty big financial hit, but I also realize that, you know, I need to be open to do more web conferencing and more video chats. That's why I've prayed like 3 or 4 times about today, because I, like Brad Paisley, if any of you all watched his live concert last week, this, for whatever reason, I don't know, it just made me nervous. I think it's because it's technology that I'm not super comfortable using. It's relying on it. But I also know that this is a season where we have to be creative. St. Patrick's Day, I don't know how many of you in our territory tuned in to a concert that Jessica Mashburn and Evan Olson put on, but I was thrilled because I was home alone, and you know, the entertainment was super exciting and inviting, and they even put their Venmo and Cash App on so we could make a donation. Now, a couple years ago, a friend that I went to high school with worked for the police force up in Virginia, and they had the whole municipality shut down. So he had to be creative and find a way to make revenue, and he sold custom handmade cutting boards. So fortunately, I have one in my kitchen, but I bring that up because, you know, for some of us, we may have cash reserve. For some of us, we may not. Some of us need to be creative and figure out a way that we're going to create cash flow. You know, one of the blessings, and I read this book a long time ago, but it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it talked about the impact of multiple income streams. So I realized that, you know, this might be my season where I do more coaching. I don't usually work with more 3 clients at a time just because it's time intensive, and, you know, I want to make sure I'm available, but that might be something new that I add to my portfolio. You know, I have a newsletter for the residents of Sedgefield, and, you know, I'm grateful that that newsletter is going to continue in production, and I've been impressed by the owners of that company. It's called Into Publishing, but I've been really impressed by how they've shifted to Zoom meetings. They're bringing in different people to speak on the calls to talk about the importance of advertising in a crisis like this. And that's the other thing I want to talk to you about as we close, because I didn't want to be on here too long, but choose your words wisely. You know, the corona crisis or the corona opportunity to care. The believer community, if you will, they're calling it holy distancing. And, you know, it's all about how we choose to look at things. So a couple of weeks ago, I was thinking about all of these tax professionals that are in the National Society of Certified Healthcare Business Consultants. I've been affiliated with this group for about 17 years. Because some of my client base is in healthcare, and I sent them an email to our listserv, and I want to read it to you. And I called it Special Report. Top 10 things to keep top of mind during this historic time. Faith is top of mind to those that are faithful. Peace is top of mind to those that are peaceful. Courage is top of mind to those that are courageous. Value is top of mind to those that are valuable. Lead is top of mind to those that are leaders. Love is top of mind to those that are lovers. Friend is top of mind to those that are friendly. And give is top of mind to those that are givers. Help is top of mind to those that are helpers. Serve is top of mind to those that are servants. So have faith, be at peace, show courage, give to others, lead yourself, be a friend, give to others, help those in need, and serve with your whole heart. Now, some of you know that part of my career turn over the years has been to serve as an adjunct hospital chaplain. I did that for 3 years. It was a volunteer position. And one of the things that season really taught me was the importance of embracing all religions. It also taught me how to be more confident in my prayer life. And I did my first Bible study, about 12 years ago. And I bring that up because whatever your faith of walk is, whatever your prayer life looks like, I do want to ask you to use that opportunity to recenter and to really reconnect with your higher power. I watched an online service yesterday. Jan Britton is our former senior pastor, and she now runs a church in Mooresville. And it was really interesting because her associate pastor talked about how there's this climate among our population now where we're either in fear, we're in denial, or we're in panic. And you got to understand, everybody deals with change differently. I have to do things different every single day, so I'm kind of on fire for change, but this has rattled me. And, there's others of us that are truly panicking, and there's some of us that are super fearful. So we need to really just embrace and accept that we're all dealing with this, but there are strategies that we can deal with it more successfully, with more sanity, and with more peace. So be calm, have clarity, be creative. And I want to close with one of Jan's prayers that she sends out. She calls it Bible 365. O Lord, distance may be hard for me, but it is no hindrance to you. Please work through me so that I might be part of achieving your purposes in this time of holy distance. And Lord, may those on the front lines recognize your presence with them and respond to your wisdom, guidance, and love. Amen. And Jan says the thought for the day is distance is no problem for my God. So we're all connected in some way. We're going to have a virtual vision board gathering of 3 professional women that met at my house a couple of months ago. And, be willing to do things differently. Be creative. Be clear. Be calm. This is Coach MK. Blessings to all of you, and thank you for being here today.